Yeah. Sometimes I wish we had a use of force policy in real estate with the occasional tough buyer or the dad that shows up to home inspections. I'm just like,
yeah, right. One level of force greater you can use.
Yeah, just a little wrist lock.
Yeah.
Easy one out the door. You're fine.
Stop resisting.
We're back, ladies and gentlemen, with another riveting episode. Riveting, I say.
I think it's riveting.
Well,
Very exciting.
it's very early on to say that, especially since you're going to be the subject of the podcast, so you don't count. Anyway, welcome back to the Tactical Agent Podcast, guys. Hopefully you liked last week. We introed Danny to you guys, and this week I promised you we'd be introducing another agent to the Tactical Agent channel, and it is Tre Serrano. Or
hello.
Should I say Serrano? Like how do
Serrano, Pepper. They used to call me Pepper in the police academy. Did you know that?
Enrique. No, I didn't know that. Why did they call you
Yeah.
Pepper?
Serrano, Pepper. So they're like, come on, Pepper, get him. And I'd be like, MMA fighting.
I don't think
with
they
my
could get away with that
classmate
now.
Yeah, that sounds like cultural appropriation to me.
Yeah, they would say, pick up your fat head, and like, I giggled inside,
All right, guys, we are all about, at the Tactical Agents, trying to help you see and think about this business in a different way and crush your goals. And Tre is not only going to be helping us with the podcast and, joining in on more content on the channel, but is also himself, like me and Chris, former cop who has well surpassed our ability in real estate and has crushed his goals. So we're just going to hear a little bit about his story. If you're not a cop, that's okay. This can be your story too. You could be, for all I care, a toll booth operator, and you can have a dream too. It's okay. You don't have to be a cop for this to matter to you. But I know that a lot of people, just by virtue of the freaking name of the show and the channel, we're attracting people who kind of come from that law enforcement military background and think tactically, even probably like weekend LARPers who just put on night vision goggles and airsoft or something. Maybe you want to be a real estate agent too.
Nerf guns,
Yeah. All right. So yeah, just let's start there in your cop career. I guess summarize your cop career in a couple of minutes.
Yeah, I'll give you the couple of minute speech. So, man, I grew up, pretty poor in New York City, and always dreamed of like this home ownership thing. As a New Yorker, it's like basically unobtainable until you have a lot of money. And so after college, well, actually 9/11 happened when I was in New York City. Really changed my life, and in just a way that I needed to serve, my followers in the military, and I looked up to the NYPD and FDNY. So I was like, this is what I have to do. Like, I don't want to join the military. I just want to be a cop. So I was on the 4-year waiting list, or probably it was like 8 years back then, to be NYPD. So then I became a paramedic and served as a paramedic or EMT paramedic for I think it was 6 years. Then I kind of just got sick of New York, and I said, I want God, guns, and freedom. So I just took the police test in Texas. I applied to 3 departments, got hired in San Antonio first, and literally while I was doing my police testing, I went to the Riverwalk, and I was like, oh, there's cheap houses, there's beer, there's affordable things, and it's in kind of laid back life. And the cop culture there is very pro police versus a somewhat democratic state like New York. So I'm like, this is my thing. So this is my jam. So I literally packed up my Jeep, rented my apartment that I owned in New York, got here September 25th, started the police academy September 27th of 2011. Literally 2 days I lived in Texas, I started the police academy. So I left everything. I left my pension job as a paramedic and became a cop. So I was a cop for, let's just say, 6 years. I had a horrible experience with a realtor at the time. happened to be an officer's wife. Her name's Karen. Hope she's not listening to this right now. And I was like, man, here I am working overtime. I'm like, doing traffic posts and like, doing extra shifts, on my tours. And it sucks, right? Like, I mean, it's just you're tired and you don't have time for anything. The shift work, you got to go to more court because you're doing more cases. So then I'm like, man, I'm just going to try this real estate thing because Karen sucks. Like, I think I can do better than Karen. So then I got my real estate license, had no idea what I was doing, never jumped into any training because we had, my wife and I, we had at the time she was pregnant. My son was 2 or 1. So like really didn't have time to dive into. So I just fell forward. So as I learned things, as a part-time agent, my record was 55 closings in 1 year as a part-time agent. And I just executed everything. I did video. I did, this is when video wasn't really cool. And it just attracted more business. And then I realized I was paying my assistant more than I was making as a cop. So then that was a pretty pivotal point. And then in 2020, I went full-time real estate. I left the pension, left the benefits, left everything, left honorably. Like I didn't have to leave. People were like, oh, you get in trouble? Like, no, I didn't get in trouble. At least to the point where I had to get fired. No, I just left. And
every good cop has to get in trouble at some point.
Oh yeah, I've been to internal affairs at least 3 or 4 times. Are you
even a cop if you don't have a rule named after you? I'm not sure.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, I don't think I did that. Use of force was my thing, but that rule was already written, many times, many right. eons ago.
My use of force policy definitely changed with my unwitting input.
Yeah, sometimes I wish we had a use of force policy in real estate with the occasional tough buyer or the dad that shows up to home inspections. I'm just like,
yeah, right. One level of force greater you can use.
Yeah, just a little wrist lock.
Yeah.
Easy one out the door. You're fine.
Stop resisting. Stop resisting.
Yeah, that still reminds me of that video idea we got to do. That'll be on the channel soon. We'll put that up here.
For sure.
Yeah, so
and here I am.
I want to go back for a second and explore a little bit more about why real estate, other than the fact that you had a bad experience. What was there a person that was sort of like influential to you or kind of suggesting that to you, or did you literally kind of like stumble into it or just give it a try on a, like what was the mindset behind real estate as your sort of side gig or side hustle as opposed to a lawn care service or freaking travel agent or whatever else? What was it for you?
So it was, number one, a buddy that when I was a paramedic in New York, he owned, I think, like 3 or 4 houses at the time. And I was like, dude, you own 3 or 4, like you're a gajillionaire if you own 3 or 4 houses. 2 of them were, well, one was a little beach condo and the other one was like a primary residence. The other one was like another condo somewhere that he rented. And I was like, dude, you're loaded. Like you can pretty much do anything. But he was the one that was like, shut up about your like where I want to live, budgets, like just buy a fucking house. And as soon as he said that, like I respected him, not only as a worker on the street, but he just was like a good dude. And he was just like, you need to buy something. So when I bought it, I realized that I was sitting on $20,000 or $30,000 of home equity, and I'm like, oh man, this is amazing. I was the first one in my family to buy, a little condo. It was like, it cost me $89,000 at the time, and I used Obama's first-time buyer thing. So I basically walked into it with very little out of pocket, which was awesome. So that coupled with my sense of service plus Karen's suckiness, all 3 meshed, and I'm like, okay, I know this is empowering, and I know this is a sense of service in a way, and I can help people like me that never knew that I could be a homeowner, especially because dreaming of owning a home in New York, I feel like this is good. And I saw how much Karen made after the deal, and I was like, oh my God. I think it was like, I don't know, $3,500
yeah,
after our deal, and I'm like, You know how much overtime that is? And that was only a, $100,000 condo she sold for us.
Yeah.
It was our first place, yeah. Or second place.
So do you feel like there was something specific that you took from your experience in policing that you think helped you get that success where you're like, you wake up one day and realize, wow, I'm doing enough business to pay my assistant more than I make as a cop, like a full-time job. Like, what do you think the greatest skills that you learned as a cop that translated very well and served you well in your real estate business?
Mike, I love that question, dude. So I think there's two things that come to mind that are the biggest two things that helped me learn as a cop and then execute in real estate. The first thing is just execution. Like when you stop a car, you're not thinking like, okay, do I go up? Do I go up this side? No, you just do it, right? It's like you go up to the car, you talk to the guy, and you don't question yourself. You don't question what your next movement's going to be. If you feel like the guy's being squirrely, just grab him or a girl. And so just executing on feelings that just, feel like you don't feel right. That was one of them where it's like when you learn something in real estate or you learn from a class or a mastermind, just do it versus having to overanalyze it or think about it. Because if you overanalyze something on the street, that could cost you your life, right? So I apply the same thing in real estate. And I think the second one is my love for confrontation. I used to love stopping people and talking to everybody. You walking down the street at 2 a.m., on a street that you don't look like you belong, I'm stopping you. Or, cross, PC, you find probable cause to stop somebody, whatever it is. But I loved confrontation. Like I loved going up to groups. I loved talking to people. So confronting people with issues helped me also because I created conversations because of my ability to talk to people. And I learned it more so because people tend to run away from conflict or they don't want to kind of problem solve it. But I love doing that. Like on patrol, man, give me all your problems. Like I'll figure it out, or it's the creativity of problem solving as a cop really translated into real estate because people have these homes that they don't know what to do with, or like, I don't know if I can buy, or, I love having those conversations. So I think those two things are probably the biggest.
That's good. I never thought about confrontation in that way. But just that's helpful, I think, especially for people who maybe think that real estate doesn't have confrontation.
Oh, dude,
it certainly does have its share of confrontations.
Yeah, I mean, I get younger agents that younger as in younger in the business. They'll come up to you and be like, "Hey, I have this guy and he's thinking about this and that." I'm like, "Call him! Like, call him on the phone right now." And he's like, "Well, I'm not gonna call him. Like, I don't know what he's doing." I'm like, "Dude, just call him. Just call him right now." So they call him and we talk it through, and it's just like going through it, and then something comes out of it. You get more information, and then you start asking better questions to the person. Then they start to open up more. So like, that's something that I was never as loving of confrontation because I never knew the benefit or how it would benefit me financially. Mm-hmm. But now, because I do so much content and so much, I feel like it's a good amount of real estate business that it's helped me now develop it into income, which, as a cop, you have a fixed income, right? Essentially, You can't, it's not like you can be a cop in two different places, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Thankfully. although I do know cops that their extra gig is being a cop somewhere else. Like,
get out.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Their side job is copping, or there's a lot of places like in Michigan where they do part-time police work, like smaller places. And so they'll have 2 to 3 different part-time jobs. They don't like work full anywhere. They just like, they've got 3 different uniforms, it does happen, terrible. I guess. It does sound
It sounds horrible, dude. Or I know the guys that retire out of my old department and then they go work another 10, 20 years at another department. I'm like, you're crazy, dude.
Yeah, yeah, they are crazy. Yeah. So where where are you at now in your business? Like, we don't have to get into the weeds on it, but like now you went full time 2020 in real estate. Obviously, we're 4 years in. Where is your level of business now? What are you focused on, like now and into the future too, with your business?
Yeah. So 2020. Okay. So since 2020, let's see, I think we sold like 80 homes in 2021, which is the first full year I was in real estate. Then it went to like 95. And then last year, 2023, we did 104 closed transactions. And that's with three other agents and 5 support staff that we have running in our team.
Nice. And then you're involved. I mean, there's, well, people might not know this, right? Like Chris and I have been influenced by Tre and others. Like you guys, we have an old episode with Tim Macy. So Tim is somebody that has a lot of connection with Tre as well, and they've had an influence on our business. So you spend a lot of time beyond just your team too, right? Like influencing. You have a lot of experience in influencing agents in the industry, not just directly on your team, right?
But honestly, I've been influenced by you guys. I've been following you guys, Chris and Mike, for years. Before, when I was a cop, like, I never thought ever I would get into some kind of business. Like, I'm like, business? Like, I'm not going to an office. And like, even as a cop, I would go into businesses for like, alarms or whatever. I'm like, I would never fucking do this. I would never sit in an office and just like sit at a desk on a computer. Like, that's so lame. But yeah, so you guys are also my influence.
See, we made a net worth millionaire, Chris, and we didn't even know it. That's how influential we are. We can't even keep track of the number of people that we've influenced.
Yes.
Yeah. So I guess to wrap it up, and because guys, you're gonna get to know Tre over there's lots more where this came from. We just kind of wanted to not only introduce him to everybody, but also hear a cool story, because like if Tre can do it, so can you probably, especially if you know Tre.
Hell yeah.
Tre has
anybody can do it.
I don't know if it's diagnosed ADD or AD. I don't know the difference between like whatever. Like he is definitely like the squirrel guy, right? Like
oh yeah.
Like so if Tre can do this, you can do this. So what would your message be to not just cops and veteran types that might be listening, but anybody who's been thinking, I wonder if I could do this real estate thing? What would your message to them be?
So I would say if you don't believe that you can do it, just like I didn't, there's no way I can build a real estate company or a real estate team. Like I can't do that. I would say put yourself in a room of your peers right now, and then think like, am I a better cop than this cop? Or better in a sense of like, is my work ethic better, right, than the person next to me? Like, probably. Then if you do side gigs, like, am I doing better than this person? So like every room you're in your life, you always try to rise up and be in bigger rooms as in people more successful. So like you can also look at this in social media. Like you follow, like I used to follow, or I still follow you guys, obviously, but I follow you guys, and it's like, how can I get a social media following like Mike and Chris? How can I? And then when you're in these bigger rooms, you start to residually get these nuggets of ideas and influence just from being a part of a greater network. And now, with my background, I go to these real estate conferences or I go to a real estate mastermind, and I'm like, man, this guy's doing, 400 transactions a year. Like, that's way beyond what I'm doing. But at least now I get to know that. I'm like, wait, I think it's possible. And you start implementing slowly. So growth is like, can I curse? I guess I could curse. Growth
say
is like
whatever you
Hasn't stopped you so far.
I know I should have asked in the beginning.
It's,
So
it's your show now too, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You get to decide.
So growth in business or growth in development, personally, financially, it's a shit sandwich, right? Ultimately, it's so hard because it's uncomfortable. You're doing things that you've never actually done before, and it's like, how do you eat a shit sandwich? Like in a police world, you're like, you know, in a shooting, or if you're in a high level, high stress environment, it's a shit sandwich, right? Like you eat it by one bite at a time and invite your friends to help you. And that's exactly the same thing in business. Is it's hard to get traction, but if you do it with like-minded people that's at your level or a little bit higher, that's how you're going to get there, because you're going to be able to see things and appreciate small wins, like to find the joys in everyday wins versus just trying to be like, I want to be a millionaire, I want to be a successful real estate agent. Like, that's like saying I am always happy. Like, that doesn't happen. It's just finding the small joys and then getting there slowly.
I love it. Well, cool. If you guys happen to have more questions for Tre or follow up, I know, like, I could probably sit and talk to you about 9/11 all day. I think that I heard that before when you mentioned that, but like now I'm like, man, I got a lot of questions about that living in New York at the time and whatever else. That's kind of cool. Maybe we can have some like deep cuts to the podcast and have like side convo episodes or something. But
Hell yeah.
Tre's like, no, I have severe PTSD from that, and I do not want to talk about it.
I got PTSD and everything, so...
Well, guys, this has been episode 53 of the Tactical Agent Podcast. We're glad you listened or watched. If you're on YouTube, we appreciate it. And if we add value, if you appreciate it, hey, drop the like, the sub, the comment, the rating, the review on the podcasts and the Spotifys and all the things. So we appreciate you guys, and we really do want you to win. We want you to crush it in this business. Get in here and join us, and the more the merrier. We're excited for your future. If that's the direction you want to go, we'll be here when you're ready. So with that, we'll see you next episode.